Math 100 lesson 7-4 is going to be about adding and subtracting rational expressions with different denominators. And I just realized that I spelled denominators incorrectly, so let me fix that. Sorry about that. All right, in lesson 3, we were adding and subtracting, but our denominators were like. They were the same denominator. So here's going to be the first thing you're going to have to be able to do. You must have the same denominator in order to add these. Okay, they must be like, must have the same denominator. So that means you need to know how to find the least common denominator. All right, you do need to know how to find the least common denominator. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with, let's just make sure we understand how to find the least common denominator, since that's something we have to be able to do. So least common denominator. So I'm going to give you two rational expressions that have different denominators, okay? We have a denominator of 10x squared and we have a denominator of 15x. And we're going to find the least common denominator. There's a couple of ways you can do it. I like to make a list over here of what I have. All right, I know that 10x squared is 2 times 5 times x times x. I know that 15x is 3 times 5 times x. My least common denominator means I have to take every factor I see. I'm going to write it down just so you can make sure you have it. Take every factor I see every factor that I see, if the same factor is in both, take the highest power. Okay. So let me write this a little differently since I said it like that. All right, so I've got to take every factor I see. So I'm just going to circle those factors. I see a 2, I see a 5, and I see a 3. Now, it says if the same factor is in both, take the highest power. Okay, well 5 is in both, but they're the same power, so we just take a 5. Well, they both have an x. But this is where that take the highest power comes in. I'm going to take the x squared. So my least common denominator here, I take all those things that I circled over there in red and multiply them together. So 2 times 3 times 5 times x squared. It's going to give me 30x squared. That would be my least common denominator. We're not adding or subtracting here, we're just finding what is the least common denominator. All right, let's try another one of those. All right, so again I have two fractions and I want us to find the least common denominator. Well, before I wrote down all the factors. Okay, that's what I did when I wrote down 2 times 5 times x squared and 3 times 5 times x. Those were factors. Well, x plus 3 and x minus 3 are already factored. So my least common denominator here is you multiply the factors that are there. Okay, now let me just relate that to something maybe you can understand without variables. Like if I have 4/7 and 2/9, and I said, what is the least common denominator? Okay, well, the only thing that multiplies to be 1 and 7, multiplies to be 7 is 1 and 7. 9 would be 1 times 3 times 3. So if we use my little idea of take every factor that you see, okay, I see a 1, I see a 7, and I see a 3 squared. Okay, I see a 3 squared. So I have to take 1 times 7 times 3 squared, which is a 63. Now think about that. 3 squared is 9, guys. So really all I did was multiply those two together to get my least common denominator of 63. Same idea here. This is already factored, so I multiply them together to get my least common denominator. Let's try another. Still just finding least common denominator. Alright, so this time there's a little bit of work to show. I'm going to take this first denominator and I'm going to factor it. Okay, I'm going to factor it. Alright, well when I factor it, it has a 7x in common. I would be left with x plus 4. I'm going to also factor this denominator. Okay, well that's two things that multiply to give me 16, but add to give me 8. Right? So those are 4 and 4. If you do grouping, that would be x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 16. Both groups have an x plus 4, and we multiply by what is left, which is x plus 4. All right, so x plus 4 squared. All right. So my least common denominator, I take every factor that I see. Okay, well, I see a 7, I see an x, and now these two are the same, right? Okay, I saw 7x. Now these two are the same. Well, which one do I take? I take the one with the highest power. So I also have x plus 4 squared. So my least common denominator is going to be 7x times x plus 4 squared. That would be my least common denominator. Okay, so now that we've practiced least common denominator a little bit, let's actually do some adding. We'll start small. I think I'm on number 5, I'm not sure. Alright, so let's add 3 over 10x squared plus 7 over 15x. Now, if you will notice, these two denominators are the same. These are the same expressions that I did in the number 1 above. So, first thing we have to find is the least common denominator, which we actually already have done that. Okay, we just did it. So our least common denominator here is 30x squared. So what that means is that both denominators are going to change to 30x squared. Now here's what you need to be asking yourself. All right, what do I multiply 10x squared by in order to get 30x squared? Well, I had to multiply it times 3. Okay, in order for that to be a 30x squared. Whatever you do to the denominator, you must do to its numerator. So times 3 would be a 9 goes there. All right, now we do the other fraction all on its own. I go, okay, what did I multiply 15x by to give me 30x squared? Well, I had to multiply it times 2x, okay, because 15 times 2 will give me 30, x times x will give me x squared. Whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to its top. So we're going to multiply 7 times 2x, and we get 14x. Now that my denominators are the same, I can go ahead and add my numerators, 9 plus 14x. They're not like terms. There's nothing else I can do. That problem is finished. So we're going to add these two. Now again, these are the same fractions that I used above. So we've already found the least common denominator, and it was x plus 3 times x minus 3. All right. So, whoops. Both fractions are now going to have the least common denominator. All right, now we have to figure out what are the numerators, because they're not just 2 and 4 anymore. All right, so this denominator, what did it get multiplied by to end up looking like that? Well, it already has the x plus 3. It got multiplied by x minus 3. So we have to multiply that numerator times the same thing, times x minus 3. So I've got 2 times x minus 3. All right. Now let's do the other fraction. Okay. Well, this x minus 3 changed to this. How did I change it? I multiplied it times the x plus 3. Whatever I do to its denominator, I must do to its numerator. So times x plus 3 would leave me with a 4 times x plus 3. Now you don't have to keep drawing all these arrows. I'm just trying to make sure you can follow what I'm doing. Now that my denominators are the same, I can put them over one denominator and add my numerators. All right, so that puts me here. All right, now we are not finished. All right, I need to distribute the 2. I need to distribute the 4. All right, so that's my next step. So I get 2x minus 6 plus 4x plus 12. My denominator, don't distribute, okay? Let's leave it, x plus 3 times x minus 3. Now combine like terms in our numerator. So 2x plus 4x gives me 6x. Negative 6 plus 12 gives me positive 6. Again, just bring your denominator down. Okay. Now, it's worth checking. Okay, now I'm just going to kind of check this in my head. If I factor that, all right, if I factor it, it will be 6 times x plus 1. Notice that 6 times x plus 1 doesn't have anything in common with the denominator, so it's not going to help me to factor that numerator. All right, it would not help me to factor that numerator. So we are simplified, and that is done. Okay, so we've been doing some adding. Let's subtract. All right, now we have not found our least common denominator for this one. All right, it doesn't even look like I've got 2 fractions, but really I do. I can think of this as over 1, all right? So the first thing I need to identify is my least common denominator. All right, they are both already factored, okay? So I take every factor I see. Well, this is x plus 5, and this is a 1. So I take 1 times x plus 5, which is just x plus 5. So that's my least common denominator, x plus 5. Awesome. So that means that both fractions will now have that denominator. We have to decide what are the numerators. When I look at this denominator, it did not change, which means its numerator will not change. All right? This other denominator did change. Okay? That was a 1. We multiplied it times x plus 5. So we have to do the same thing to its numerator. We multiply it times x plus 5. So 1 times x plus 5 is x plus 5. All right. Now that I have common denominators, I have the same denominator, I can put it over one denominator. Now I'm subtracting, so I need to be careful here. Make sure that this x plus 5 is in parentheses because I am going to have to distribute that negative, which is what I'll do now. Distribute that negative. All right, well, x minus x in the numerator leaves me with a 0, and then minus 5. And then I still have the x plus 5 in my denominator. And we are finished with that one.